Fires in Washington state, California, and Oregon have killed at least 35 people and destroyed more than 2 million hectares of land. Strong winds are now adding fuel to those raging wildfires. These are pictures of the so-called Bobcat fire on the outskirts of Los Angeles. In California, tens of thousands of people are under evacuation orders. Donald Trump was in the north of the state this afternoon getting a briefing on the wildfires from officials there, including the governor. Trump has been coming under a lot of criticism for not doing more to help with the crisis. Experts say the wildfires have a lot to do with climate change, but Trump blames the state of California for fire mismanagement. For more, we're joined live now by freelance reporter Ira Spitzer. He's east of San Francisco. So, Ira, how has Trump's visit to California gone so far, and what did he have to say about the state's record fire season so far?
Well, Donald Trump emerging from Air Force One in the city of McClellan Park near the state capital of Sacramento, and immediately launching into some remarks with reporters there. And what Trump continually tried to do was divert the attention from climate change, which has, of course, been some major criticism over especially the past week of his policies, and sort of reframe or try and reframe the conversation around this idea of forest management, saying that the state of California hasn't done a good enough job over the past years in removing things such as dead trees and leaves from the forest floors, and that is where the responsibility lies for this historic fire season. Now, for their part, California officials have not denied that forest management is, of course, a massive issue here. But what they are saying, and what many others are saying, especially here on the West Coast, is that climate change has made this fire season much worse. So Trump really doing his best to not address the climate change issue. But of course, it really kind of hangs in the background of all the discussions here with California's fire season.
Mm-hmm. And so is climate change now becoming a bigger issue in this year's presidential election?
Well, it absolutely is. I think the images, especially from last week of here in the Bay Area, where on one day the sun basically appeared not to rise because of the tremendous levels of smoke in the atmosphere. Of course, these horrific images we've seen coming from California as well as Oregon and Washington, those certainly are being used, especially by Trump's opponents, to point to the tremendous urgency of the climate change issue. And we heard earlier in the day from Joe Biden speaking in Delaware, Trump's opponent, calling Trump a climate arsonist because of the way this fire season has progressed, and because of Trump's refusal to really address climate change issues, pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord and things like that. So suddenly climate change really front and center here in the U.S. presidential campaign. All
right, Ira, thank you. Freelance reporter Ira Spitzer, east of San Francisco. Now, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden also spoke about the wildfires today. He says extreme fires and hurricanes will become more devastating if Trump wins a second term.
We need a president who respects science, who understands that the damage from climate change is already here. Unless we take urgent action, it will soon be more catastrophic. A president who recognizes, understands, and cares that Americans are dying, which makes President Trump's climate denialism, his disdain for science and facts, all the more unconscionable. Once again, he fails the most basic duty to a nation. He fails to protect us from the pandemic, from an economic freefall, from racial unrest, from the ravages of climate change. It's clear that we're not safe in Donald Trump's America.
Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, as mentioned, Donald Trump has blamed the wildfires on poor forest mismanagement by the state of California.